Hello, everyone. My name is Joseph Kerrigan. I am a course leader in graphic communication and progression tutor at International School of Creative Arts in the UK. And my role is to work in a team of tutors who support international students who come to ISCA and want to progress onto art and design universities in the UK and all around the globe. As progression tutors, we work with the individual students in preparing their portfolio. This presentation is going to be about portfolios, as in what is a portfolio, what is included in a portfolio, and what we do at International School of Creative Arts in the UK to help students create, prepare, and present their portfolios. And my presentation will go through each of the steps and give an insight into the details in what our students do and what we as progression tutors do as well. So this presentation here will go over a few things that hopefully give you information that you find valuable for portfolios and also inform you about what we do at International School of Creative Arts. So to start with, I'd like to help understand what is a portfolio. It is a document of what we like to call your creative journey. It's a series of works that have taken place over a period of time and have been gathered together in a collection to show almost like a journey where you start and where you finish with projects. But it has to also show the way you think and work at the same time. So it's an insight into not only what you make visually, but how you think about your work, what inspires you, and how you visualize things in your head on a visual format. It's the development of work over a period of time. So it's something you do, let's say, with a project that is done over a series of weeks or possibly even months, rather than just a series of individual outcomes which you'll do in a day. A portfolio has to show what inspires you. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about is how your portfolio is unique about you as an individual person, as someone who stands out from a group of people. So therefore, what inspires you is really important. That has to be seen in a portfolio as well. Showing your originality and what makes you stand out is what I just mentioned, and it's a live document that evolves throughout an artist's career. So although you're making a portfolio to get into an art and design university, a portfolio should feel that it's taken place over a period of time and could even carry on after you've finished it and after you've gotten into university. After all, remember, if you're using a portfolio to go into university, you've got to give a sense that you're ready to study for another 3 to 4 years. And in more information, things to consider for a portfolio, first of all, consider what platform you're using to show your creative process. So you'll need to think about making a website or a digital document or even a physical portfolio to help document and to showcase what you've made over that period of time. There needs to be a sense of constant investigation. And at ISCA, we do a lot of work in supporting students show a sense of investigation. And I'll talk more about that later on. You have to demonstrate where your ideas came from, whether it's something about you personally, your own personal history or your own life or lifestyle, or maybe it's something from context, such as historical, cultural, or even other contexts, such as economical, or even to do with areas outside of art and design, such as science. Clean layout is really important. A portfolio shouldn't feel too messy. Even if the work is quite lively and energetic, it should have a clear and clean layout and showcases the best of your work. So if you've done final outcomes or work that involved a lot of work or studies, that needs to be seen in a portfolio. Show your skills and personality as well. So a good balance of work where you can develop and use good skills, but work that can be maybe more expressive and more unique about what you have responded to visually. A portfolio needs to show that you've taken risks with your work. So at ISCA, we do a lot of experimentation and support students with experimentation. You need to show that you're confident to try something that isn't your comfort zone. So stepping outside your comfort zone through experiments, through testing, through variation is something we're going to look at today. A portfolio should have balance. So it shouldn't just be the same works again and again, or just paintings. So if you're applying to fine art, it shouldn't just be paintings and that's it. Showing variation and different techniques is also very important. Consistency is also very important too. So if you're working on a portfolio that shows an ability to consistently work over a period of time, that's good. I mentioned earlier telling a story. So a portfolio might be a bit like a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. We sometimes call that structure as well. And finally, there are links to your theme and research. So a portfolio needs to show that you can work thematically and show that you can research, which means going outside of your bedroom and outside of a studio with your work as well. And at ISCA, we teach a lot about how to research, how to experiment, how to develop a theme. Last but not least, a portfolio needs to show it's linked to your progression focus. So what that means is if you're applying to a very specific subject, such as textiles, then your portfolio should have a lot of tactile work in there that involves textiles or textiles-based work. And not just, let's say, too much drawing. You know, there's a good use of 3D or textile work in there. Leading on from that, what should a portfolio include? So it should have about 2 to 3 projects. Now, universities or colleges will be very specific about how many boards or how many displays or how many works you need to show. Typically, though, in terms of projects, about 2 to 3. Coherence is important, a sense of projects being easy to follow and not being confusing. Your interviewer or someone who looks at your work, such as an admissions tutor, they shouldn't have to guess what your work is about. That should be quite clear. Even if it's open-ended, it should be quite clear what your work is about. It needs to be personal, which I've already talked about, and show a good sense of curiosity, a sense that you're eager to learn, that you like learning, that you use your art and design as an opportunity to learn and experience the wider world. Show connections to what you're making so that your experiments link to your development and your development links to your final outcome. Show the best of your creativity as well, you know, talking a lot about standing out and being unique with your work, as well as showing your skills. And this last point's really important. So even though your portfolio might be complete, never forget your portfolio is a document that shows you're ready for an extra 3 years of study. So showing that you're showing work that may not be finished or currently work in progress. So it could be a project that hasn't yet reached its conclusion, but shows the most current work that you're doing, because that shows confidence to reveal to your admissions tutor and say, hey, I'm working right now on something and I have work and plans for the future. Here's the board that's about that. This is just a snapshot of things that a creative process of a project needs to include. So right from the beginning to the end, this is what we talk about is the creative journey. This is that journey, like almost going on a train ride. You're stopping at these stations. So you're going, first stop is theme and starting point. So if you're doing a project at school, or if you're doing a project with us at ISCA, we usually have a starting point, like a theme or a word that gets you beginning those ideas. This should be a starting point, not an end point. So even if the starting point doesn't look that similar to your final outcome, that's not a bad thing, because you're able to see that where the project began versus to where it ended. Admission tutors really like that. And then your project goes on a journey which shows that you have pursued an outcome and carried that out. You've done the work. Now you have to make the portfolio. So a format of your portfolio has to be very specific to what your university has asked you to do. So if a university's asked for a slideshow, it's a slideshow. If they want video, you need video. If they want it to be something like a website where all of your work is listed in a portfolio, like a web link, do check that. And we at ISCA make sure that we check every single university, every single course, and every single requirement. It's a lot of work, especially when students have about 5 different options they've chosen. But this is something we do a lot of work with our students. We coach them through the whole process, and we use our own experiences and our guidance to ensure students have formatted their work correctly and not incorrectly. Generally, a portfolio will have about 20 to 30 pages or slides. So there'll be 20 images or 30 images that have the variety of work we just talked about. If it's a physical portfolio, we like to work on A2 white cards, and we can call them display boards or portfolio boards, but generally these are quite large sheets that we stick our work down because we like a lot of borders around our work, almost like an art gallery wall. If we're not doing a physical board, then we'll use high quality digital portfolio works. So things to avoid would be things like bad quality photographs or images of your work with backgrounds that are undesirable or bad lighting. So don't put your work on a table that has things like snacks and rubbish and your desks like computer and doesn't have good lighting, or don't put it on a wall where there's like a door or a plug in the background. Try your best to take it in the best quality lighting with a nice clear background and no distractions. The less distractions, the more the progression tutor will look at your work, or the admissions tutor will look at your work and not be distracted by things that make your work look worse, especially bad lighting. A little bit more on layout. So work should be presented neatly, coherently, and with a sense of a theme, drawing things together. So if you have a page that's about your research, then on that board, your research should be a variety of images that you took and some drawings that you did, and where that research perhaps went next. Maybe you did a little experiment. Maybe you did some color samples. Maybe you did a texture study. Little bits of work that you can show that when you do research, you get inspiration and then you follow up on that. It also should show a sense of development, that an idea has been tested and tried out and done in a variation like this work here. So this work with the students work with thread, photographed it in 2 different ways, and then has done a painting from that, which sounds very simple, but that shows admission tutors that a student can work from one material to the other. Inspiration boards are very important. We sometimes use primary and secondary research. Primary research is research you have done. You've gone to a place and taken lots of photographs. Secondary research is research that comes off the internet. This might be also be called a mood board or a concept board. And here, it doesn't have to be just 2D photographs or printed images, or even drawings for that matter. They could be work with anything visual. They could include formal elements such as colors, textures, patterns. They could even include words or short sentences that you have visually included or integrated into your boards to create a sense of where your ideas have come from. Because remember, this is an inspiration board, so a word to show that or some text might be important too. Try not to have too much text though. We don't want our portfolios to sort of be these long, text-rich documents that you have to read through. Remember, a portfolio ideally should be as visual as possible. You're applying to courses that are all visually based, so we don't want to read your portfolio like it's a long sketchbook that you might do for GCSE or for A-level. A portfolio is a different type of document, and we teach that a lot at ISCA, and we do a lot of coaching with our students to build their confidence, to step away from being overly descriptive with their work and be open enough to sort of show that there is interpretation allowed. Research needs to be from your theme, and ideally is done by you personally. So your research needs to be from primary observation, which is something you've done, you've traveled somewhere, you've taken it from first-hand source, and it's 100% original. Even if you've been to an art gallery or museum, or you've looked at something someone else has made, like a sculpture or a building, that's fine, because it's you that have gone to that location, you have encountered it, and you've seen it from first hand, rather than relying on your phone or social media like Instagram or from a Google image search. So when you do primary research, do as best as you can to record that as much as you can. There can be lots of photographs, even if you've done them on your phone or an old digital camera. Lots of sketches, and these sketches can be really quick and not very detailed. They could be done standing up in a small sketchbook. In fact, admission tutors like to see quick sketches, almost done in a journal rather than a sketchbook, because they can see, this person has had limited time, limited resources, but they've worked hard to get that sketch, to capture the moment, to get the impression of that object. That shows confidence, again, like I showed before, and it shows risk-taking. Admission tutors love it. It's a good candidate for university. Next up is experimentation, which we do a lot of at ISCA. We encourage students to try different materials, to watch demonstrations and to try a technique, but to then take that into their own work. This could include color samples, texture studies, line art, shape, form, and pattern, exploring different materials or details, to explore the function of a different sort of technique. So if you're using a camera, for example, exploring the functions and the different settings within that camera in order to really find out what the best work is. The key thing to do here is variation, 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 showing that even if it's the same outcome, you've tried it in different ways. Again, this shows an ability to test your work before you decide what your best outcome is. So you've done your experiments, you've got lots of different quick studies. Now we have to start selecting. So here is where we start doing what's called selection and refinement. At International School of Creative Arts, we do a lot of tutorials with the student at this stage. So we'll sit down with them, look through the work, have a conversation, share a discussion, and then write down a plan. And as tutors, we use our experience as artists and designers in our own fields, and as well as we look for potential. So we're looking, even though something may be quite rough or incomplete or just a quick sketch, we're thinking, what could this be next? And we encourage our students to do the same. Then once the final outcome is made, this is where the student does the best of their work and the best of their ability and puts a lot of time into one outcome. But even when that is done, we encourage our students and we support our students to present that work in the best way possible, whether it's on a wall in a gallery, maybe it's outside in a particular environment, maybe it's held in hand or worn on the body, or perhaps even on the internet or online for the audience to look at it. I always like to say, imagine if your work, your final outcome, is seen by the general public. How do they see it? So you put the work into doing that. And again, that gives admission tutors a lot of confidence that the student who's made this portfolio has done everything they can and has worked very hard, even at the end of the project, to ensure their work is the best possible. And that gives a lot of admission tutors confidence to accept the student. At International School of Creative Arts, we build our portfolio from A-level projects. We like A-level a lot because the A-level is a qualification that encourages development and experimentation, and a lot of what we do at A-level is also necessary for university. So the research, for example, is really important. And when we're making our portfolio boards with our students, we're very much looking at the individual student. So our progression tutors work with the student to try and look at what makes their own work special and stand out from the rest of the group. We work with that student then to give advice and feedback and even demonstrate by working with that student on their work alongside them to help push and to find that potential and to give them the best guidance and the best support possible in order to reach their goals. Our students work with progression tutors that are in all of the art and design specialisms, including fine art, graphic communication, fashion textiles, and 3D design. So when you're working to do something like an architecture portfolio, you'll be working with a 3D design tutor who's also a specialist in that subject as their progression tutor. And we have a close relationship with that student, and we do a lot of following up and a lot of guidance and then setting new goals and setting new targets once those previous goals and targets have been reached. We then work on that portfolio until it's to a stage of completion. And once it reaches that stage of completion, we do a lot with our students to prepare for even the next stage after portfolio submission. This could include interview preparation, and also it could include helping students choose their subjects or choose their university. So if a student has chosen one or has gotten into more than one university, we'll then follow up and sit down with that student and discuss why they would want to go to one college or another college and help them understand what are the sort of strengths in different colleges or what might suit that student more. And it could even include things like, you know, where does going to university in London differ to going to a university in New York? Or where would going to a university in a city versus to somewhere maybe that's more of a town or somewhere more rural? Because not every university is the same, and we can help students understand what each of those courses entail. And then, of course, once that's done, we work on the students to develop their A-level projects and help prepare them for the summer exams, which is really important because in order to get into university, you need to get the portfolio and accepted an offer. But of course, that offer is a conditional offer. And the conditional offer usually includes things like IELTS, which is the English language exam. And also it includes the A-level grades. So right up until the end of the student's work at ISCA, we're thinking about progression. And when we're thinking about what A-levels they need to achieve, we do everything we can to support that student to achieve that grade and even excel past it so that they achieve the best grades possible. And again, like our portfolios, that involves a lot of one-to-one teaching, a lot of tutorials, a lot of individual guidance, and documenting and following up on that process as well. Because it's not just about setting goals, but following up, that's really important as well. And we do a lot of that at ISCA. And the journey of that whole project looks very much like this. And I like to end on this because I think this is a great way to visualize what that creative journey is all about. And it's a rough guide of what a portfolio also is like in terms of progression. It starts with that theme and concept, that starting point. It then moves on to the research, where hopefully you go outside the studio, go outside your bedroom, and you live and experience the world around you through your work. You then go back into the studio where you do a lot of experimentation, testing and trying out your different materials and anything else that helps you make different variations of your ideas and your work from your research. From there, you take all that variation and then you start to make some selection and choices. And this is where a lot of tutorial help is needed. You develop that work, you do prototypes, you test the idea, and then finally you do the final outcome and you present it in the best way possible. We collate and bring all that work together, format it into a portfolio, support the students for their preparation and submitting that portfolio. We do any interview preparation, and after that, we do a lot of work to ensure students reach their conditions in order to get into university, and they leave at ISCA with fully accomplished, with great A-level grades, and with a university offer, and hopefully one of the most competitive art and design universities around the world. I've gone through a lot of information, but I hope you found it informative, and I hope that informs you with your own portfolios in the future, or helping you decide what to do in terms of your creative work or where you go on to your next step. And I wish you all the best of luck on your creative journeys in the future. Thank you.